Game of Thrones. Hi, I'm Claw Billie. Welcome to Hell of Thrones, a show where I watch the entirety of Game of Thrones in 1 week because I've managed to avoid it for a decade, and people paid me $1,000 because I needed rent. This is all true. I'm about to start season 4. I'm very tired. Let's rock! Have two swords, then go ahead now. Alright, at the end of every episode, I talk for 10 minutes, no notes, just off the top of my head. This is Season 4, Episode 1, Two Swords. Jamie got a new hand. Jamie's got a metal hand. Jamie's hand is stuck looking like this. I'm waiting to see Jamie have to karate chop someone with it. At one point, Jamie said a hook would be better, and I'm kind of waiting for that to happen. If that's foreshadowing, then that's good foreshadowing. I think he's right. It would be better with a hook. It would be really cool if he's just got like a bunch of detachable gadgets, like he can just and then there's like an axe, and he can just cha. Because that's what I secretly want Jamie to be, a Buzz Lightyear action figure. Tension between Sansa and Shae is ramping up. Maybe Tyrion actually does like Sansa. There was that really tense scene in this episode where he said, "I'd like to speak to my wife," and it was just Shae and Sansa left there, and like, because Shae's his wife in his heart. Oh, we've got new characters. New character alert. Prince Oberon, who I didn't realize until the credits hit, is the Mandalorian. Who else? There's somebody else. Oh, not a new character, but the guy that they threatened to execute, and now he's the court jester or something. I forgot his name. I said it over and over and over and over and over again when he showed up on screen, because that's what I do. Oh, fuck, new character. Dave. And then the end of the episode hits, and I'm like, what was that guy's name? So... did the sex knight from last season, Dario, I believe his name is, did he get recast? Or did he die? I'm so bad at paying attention to this show. I believe it was him. He was playing Balance the Blade with Grey Worm. And I was like, oh, that's a new character, right? And then somebody called him Dario. And it seemed like a very deliberate choice. And I would know because they don't repeat anyone's name on this show. But randomly, Grey Worm is like, good job, Dario something full name. And I was like, aha, they're pulling a we recast, so we need the audience to know right now that this is that guy. I'm so sorry if an actor passed away, and that's why they had to recast. Oh, Olana, oh my gosh. Olenna, Emma Peel, she said, Brienne said, you kicked my grandson into the dirt. Good job. Who is Olenna's grandson? Because she's Marjorie's grandma. So grandson must be King Smoothnips? Oh yeah, King Smoothnips. I think they said his name at one point, but another one of my rules is I don't rewind. These may be very foolish rules, but this isn't exactly the most sensible thing I'm doing with my life here. Oh, fucking... Hound going to town on that whole tavern there. I think this show really gets off on, like, pumping you up for what's about to happen, but sometimes at the expense of story logic. An example would be like when they were like, all right, Jon Snow, you gotta kill this lady, we're just gonna look away. When Arya was gonna go in that tavern to get her sword back, and the Hound, like, ran after her and was like, no, you absolutely cannot go in there. We're not going in there. We don't want to fuck with these people. But, like, he's standing in front of the fucking door as he says it. He grabs her and then stops to say, like, 5 things. And I was just like, well, of course somebody's going to come out and see him. It bugged me because it felt like my intelligence was being insulted. Like, okay, if he's so concerned about going in there... I mean, is that supposed to be the clever reveal? No, he wanted to fuck people up today. That fight was a brawler. Again, I promise to always say when I think things are actually good, That was a good fight. I'll admit there was some character shield there. When they say, we can't go in there, and then they go in there, it pretty much has to end with, and they just fucking cleaned house. Jamie and Tywin had a scene. More delicious daddy issue stuff. Tywin's a real fucker. I know this isn't the prediction section, but I feel like they're setting Tywin up to be killed by one of his own children. Because they all hate him. No one loves Tywin. He's just a cruel, cruel daddy. I think Sex Knight is trying to get in Dany's panties. He was gathering those flowers, and he was like, well, it helps to know the region. But also, aren't they very beautiful? I thought it was neat how he was like, I'm a master tactician of love. Oh, classic Tyrion moment. Was there a classic Tyrion moment? I feel like there was, and I forgot it. We'll cut that out. We'll wait for a good classic Tyrion. What do you say? Season 2, Episode 4, The Lion and the Rose. Wait. Season 4, Episode 2? What did I say? Fuck it. The Lion and the Rose! My friends, I think we have a second good episode. It did not blast me like Blackwater did back in season 2, but this one was pretty good. And you'll never believe it, but a pattern emerges. It stayed in one place for more than 5 minutes, so I could follow it. I can't do a lot of hopping from place to place. I tend not to read books that start with maps. Let's begin. This one was interesting. You know what it is? I think this one really seemed to build around a theme, which is not to say that the other episodes don't, but like, there was a lot of power dynamics in this one, and also a lot of things in the episode that seemed like callbacks. What to talk about? So many things to talk about. First thing I want to talk about is the classic Tyrion moment. My bestie Dragon Mommy Grace is saying that I am such a Tyrion, and now that I'm finally watching this show, I'm logging all the moments where I find Tyrion to be the most relatable character. And in this episode, Jaime Lannister is still struggling to use his new fake gold hand, and at one point he knocks his wine over, and Tyrion diffuses the situation by spilling some of his own wine and saying, it's only wine. Classic Tyrion. I loved that. I found it really relatable. One of my favorite things is if a friend of mine is struggling, I try to really like focus in on, you know, what I can say or do to make them feel better. And I just loved that moment. Like, it was just very visual and just, it's only wine. And then wine comes back as a plot point, so holy shit, what a good episode. Winter is coming, more like wedding season is coming. This show's nothing but weddings at this point. I feel like every wedding on the show is a moment to explore character. And I know that a lot of moments on this show are for exploring character, but because I can't keep any of the characters straight, I forget what their traits even are. So I like scenes that feature characters we've seen for a long time, and I've started to get used to what their characters are like, and then I can watch them interact in different ways. Power dynamics, oh my gosh, like at the wedding, you've got the king and his queen, and Joffrey's once again being an asshole to Tyrion. There was even a scene with little people, and like Joffrey treating them as lesser than, and clearly it's also a jab at Tyrion, and I like how Tyrion is like, well, I feel kinship with him just because, you know, we're in the same group here, and you're being an asshole. Marjorie is not a queen, she is the queen. I've really dug Marjorie this whole time. I don't know what Marjorie's like end goal is here, and we got to see a lot of Marjorie diffusing Joffrey in this episode, which I wanted to see a lot more of throughout the show, but I think she pulled the ultimate diffusing on Joffrey. Or did she? Dun dun dun! So this is the episode where Joffrey fucking eats it. I don't know who poisoned him. On this show, I tend to like zone out and then suddenly get an inkling that I just missed something and go, huh? So I don't know if we got any confirmation on who did the poisoning. I'm guessing this is going to be a Who Shot Mr. Burns / Who Shot JR. I can't wait to find out who it is. I mean, Tyrion is probably the likely candidate because Joffrey's been giving him shit publicly at weddings for a bit now. Whenever I talk to the screen, I'm always sad there's no one here to see it. As soon as Marjorie and Joffrey were officially wed, I said, fuck him up, Marjorie. How little did I know that he would get fucked up, dare I say, royally fucked up, by the end of the episode. Oh, a brief thing I did want to mention. Okay, so first of all, we're in a pandemic and we can't touch people, and this show's full of sex, so whenever people kiss, I get a little mad. Like, I'm like, oh, must be nice. But also, there's a lot of Political complexity going on in the world right now, and to have that happening in the background while I'm watching this show, like, really hits close to home. There was a quote in the show, the red lady told Burnface that there's only one hell princess, and it's the one we're living in, and boy does that hit different when in between episodes you're checking your phone to see if Satan is still alive. As of this taping, still alive. Yeah, I dug this one. I'm gonna put on the list of episodes Billy likes, Blackwater's an A fucking plus, and I gotta give this wedding a B, and everything else is FFFFFF, which strung all together spells. Every once in a while, I feel like there's a line in the show for people like me. Like, I feel like the show is self-aware sometimes. I'll admit, all the jesters reenacting the battle scenes felt a little meta, like we're all Joffrey, just like, ha ha ha, yes. Because I have so much trouble following things, at one point, a guy said, "Who the fuck is Jon Snow?" And out loud I said, "Who the fuck are you?" Because, again, I can't tell who anybody is. Oh, that was the shaving scene between Theon Greyjoy, who's now going by Reek, and, oh, what's his name? Fuck, the bug-eyed fucker. I called him Boondoggle at one point, which was technically closer. Ramsay Bolton? I feel like I knew that one from the outside, but then, like, somebody said it, and I went, that guy! Everybody talks about that guy. Yeah, the power dynamic there with, like, the shaving and whatnot. This was just a really interesting one for power dynamics and abuse and people being shitheads. It's troublesome, but it's also fascinating. And, yeah, how many more weddings are there? Season 4, Episode 3, Breaker of Chains. I'm going to tell you up front, there's going to be a trigger warning in this one, but I'm going to put it in the second half so you can watch all the things before it that aren't as troublesome. I'll take a nice big pause when we get to that point, and if you want to skip ahead to the next episode, you can. Sorry, the show makes me need that. Let's begin, shall we? Alright, a lot going on in this one, a lot that I really liked, and a lot that I didn't like, but again, that's coming in the second half. One of the things that I really liked about this episode is I really like philosophical speeches, and this episode kind of made me realize that a lot of the talking is strategizing and not necessarily philosophical, and there are plenty of philosophical speeches like nestled in with the combat, but it's mostly a lot of just facts and figures, and these are our supplies. And in this one, Tywin talking about what makes a good king really resonated with me because I like that I could just kind of, massage my brain a little bit and be like, yeah, now I'm thinking about what makes a good king interesting. It was also a great character moment because you're kind of starting to see that Tywin is actually the king. Tywin is the one who's running things and is trying to manipulate the people around him to get in that position of power. It's time for a I Hardly Knew Ye segment. The court jester fool character got an arrow in the face in this one. And genuinely, I went into this one like, oh, I still haven't learned his name yet. I mean, I learned it, but I probably haven't retained it. And when he got the arrow in the face, the very first thing I thought was, no, I was about to learn his name. And then I was like, quick, somebody say his name. Somebody say like, no, not poor Ba-ba-ba. But alas, I didn't learn his name, so I hardly knew ye. My name for you is Dagliacci, because I think it started with a D, and you were the clown. So, Dagliacci, I hardly knew ye. You joined the annals of... I can't even remember the fake names I made for him. Jangly Robe Fucker. If you want a classic Tyrion moment this week, I gotta say, while I find Tyrion the most relatable character, save a little room for polyamorous pansexual prince there. Yeah, he's fun and great, and I agree with his philosophies. Please don't do what TV always does with a bisexual character and make him greedy and power hungry and he can't decide. And it looks like the princess was also in on it. I don't remember her name. Please don't kill her before I learn it. Okay, and I have to talk about this. Game of Thrones, not a show that I would think would have pop culture references in it, but way to slip in the Monty Python reference? I think we all know the one.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
Yeah, the part where Davos gets called out by Little Burnface about not being able to pronounce knights, and she's like, you say it Kniggets, and I'm just like, come on, George, don't be too obvious a nerd. Oh my god, Star Wars and Game of Thrones are both written by big old Georges. Don't be such a George about it. Again, I hate when I can see the person at the keys like, they're gonna love this, they're gonna throw in a little Monty Python joke. Does anyone younger than me care about Monty Python? Probably not, but whatever. There was a Monty Python joke in there, you non-nerds. Alright, halfway through, seems as good a time as any to transition to a trigger warning. If sexual assault conversation is going to be difficult for you, we're going to change the color here. When the light's not red anymore, we're done. You can skip ahead to this time code. Give everybody a chance to leave the room. Take care of yourself. I love you. All right. So, what the fuck was with trying to win edgelord bingo on a guy raping his sister over the corpse of their inbred child? Okay, I hate this for so many reasons. I hate this because they want me to hate this. I hate that this builds in publicity for the show. The show you shouldn't be watching. Yeah, they tried that on Showgirls. Like, it never ages well, okay? Good for you, Basic Instinct. Nobody cares. It's a lascivious shit move. It drums up controversy. It gets people to watch it to love it. It gets people to watch it to hate it. I think a lot about how pop cultural things age. Like, we look back at things and go, wow, we were really into that. Why? Lost, Dallas, like there's so many examples of just like, wow, this was the most important thing in the world and now nobody cares. And I think a lot about how people are going to look back at Game of Thrones, and say what you will about some other shows that haven't aged well, but it's usually because the hair looks funny and not because they were like, what the hell, let's throw some rape at the rape. I'm more angry about this one than I was disturbed the last time I had to throw up a trigger warning. They tried to hedge their bets. And I find that almost more nefarious than the actual inclusion of a rape. By having her say, if I'm remembering correctly, no, not here, and no, we can't. So trying to play it off as like, she wants it, but just not in this room, not under these circumstances. That's still a no. And before you're like, I don't need my television to teach me how to be a good person, I'm not taking that chance. That's still a no. Got it? And here's the thing. TV shows are not documentaries, unless they are, and by the way, even then they're highly manipulated. But when you see these things happen, choices were made. They put those lines in there for the reasons I'm talking about right now. They wanted to say, well, it's a rape, but like, it's an okay one, so feel free to think about it and fondle yourself. Or, feel free to be shocked, enjoy it, love it, but like we don't want to be too shocking, to which I say, oh, so you took the easy way out. What kind of edgelord does that? I know, you're probably defensive about this, you probably think I'm taking it too seriously. I don't know what you're thinking. Maybe that's my thesis here. I don't know what you're thinking. But when you watch this, how do you feel? There's a lot of media that the protagonists, the heroes, the titular characters, don't have the best boundaries when it comes to consent. And some of it's media that I love. I love Rocky. No good. That scene's not good. They try to hedge their bets with, well, she's shy. I love Superbad. I think it is a great movie about friendship, but also the entire plot is one fat problem. I think you can acknowledge that. I think you don't need to throw this media away necessarily, but like, those are examples that are harmful. Like, I feel like if the assault is a villainous thing, like, at the very least, I get where it's coming from. But, like, when a show tries to hedge its bets on, oh, no, this is hot. You know what? Role play it at home, but talk about it. And that's what I think I don't like about this show. It wants to sprinkle assault all over everything, but it doesn't want to talk about it. And that just doesn't sit well with me. I'm not saying we need to break into groups and discuss after every episode, but I guess that's kind of what I'm doing, and I came to discuss. Season 4, Episode 4, Oathkeeper. And I hate that I can't get this to not sound like a joke, but welcome to our regular segment, Trigger Warning. We're going to do the non-trigger warning stuff up front. When the lights turn red, you can skip ahead. Didn't mean for that to sound sing-songy, but there it is. And see you on the other side. Love you. Take care of yourself. We'll do the fun stuff up front. Sir Pounce, great character. Favorite new character. I had a lot of technical things this episode that just kind of were springing to mind. Number one, I think Dany's white hair is murder on the green screen. And there's some dancing edges around her head, but around the other characters I never notice it. Another technical thing. I love praising the editing, and they did a good is when the audio bleeds over into the next scene. So the audio from one scene, usually if it's a location change, keeps going, but visually you cut to the next scene. And it can be really useful for linking to ideas. And they did a masterful one when Littlefinger is talking about the scheme to take down King Joffrey. They cut to O'Neill, Ed O'Neill, fucking Odessa, Olena. They cut to Olena and Marjorie walking. Oline and Margarine. They cut to them walking while he's talking about, like, you know, who asked for this or who on the inside knew or something like that. And yeah, that was really effective. Oh, also, honesty report, I fucking howled when, what's his name, Braun did a stop hitting yourself with Jamie's hand, just whipped it off and smacked him with it. I laughed really hard. That's all I have to say on that. And now we come to the trigger warning. There's actually a couple here for assault and for pedophilia. If you need a break, I love you. See you on the other side. We'll talk again in the next segment. So yeah, a couple of things. A few things. There didn't seem to be any comeuppance for Jamie in the next scene for what he did to Cersei. And I feel like that's the show saying, well, they talked about it. They worked it out. And hey, that happens sometimes. Consent can get difficult. That was not a case. That was some clear no and proceeding. And I will say this, it's a choice of the show to not have them discuss it. I know for, you know, trying to streamline a story, which if they wanted to streamline this story, it'd be about a season. We have not needed 4 seasons, but we're not talking about that right now. So that was really squicky, and I don't know about you, but I don't want to see Jamie redeemed. I don't know, they're also doing some, like, him and Brienne might be a thing, which, Brienne, get out of there, girl. In addition to the squickiness, we saw, I don't know, some cabin where a guy was yelling, fuck her till she's dead. And again, I don't know how to talk about these topics sometimes, because, like, you know what? If you say that in the heat of passion, and your partner's okay with it, like, as long as you're talking about it and acknowledging that that's a squicky thing, good for you, but I feel like this show is not presenting us a fantasy in the sense that it's not actually happening. So, like, just constantly filling the show with that, I feel like, is just... Again, it's the way you frame it. Like, every choice on a show is meticulously made. And I'm not even going to say that it's necessarily planned that way, but when it ends up in the edit, there are choices there. Choices have been made. I hate that they keep making, like, the squickiest, most troublesome choices a lot. They seem to be leering at things. And that brings us to the pedophilia warning. While nothing immediately awful happened between Joffrey's brother and Marjorie, sorry. That scene really was uncomfortable for me because it was very much framed as grooming. Like, he's underage, I think. I don't know his age, but I feel like the scene of him being like, oh, I love the little kitten, I think was supposed to be kind of an indicator of age. And she's sneaking into his room, and she doesn't do anything untoward, but conscious choice to use the phrase, our little secret. Which is just a known phrase used by pedophiles when they don't want the kid to tell anyone, and they treat it like it's a magical special thing, and I just felt really gross. I don't have a history with that. I was squicked out by the fact that they filmed it so leeringly and lovingly, and I think they were trying to get into a territory of you are supposed to feel gross about this, but... There are a lot of consensual sex scenes in this show that did not feel as sensual and romanticized as that scene. And I'm sure I'll be told that the point is that you're supposed to feel uncomfortable with it, but nevertheless, why would you foist that upon some people who are just trying to enjoy a show? I think that's what I keep coming back to, is like, these are topics that can be discussed in a serious manner. These are topics that can be discussed in private, in a playful, sexy manner, as long as you are having the conversations, acknowledging the privilege of not having to go through this, or attempting to work through something like this. There's many ways that it can go, but when you're just popping it in your entertainment, it's uncomfortable. Season 4, episode 5, first of his name, yeah. What's happening? We got us a new king. Oh, and I learned some names. Shit. Tommen? I remember telling myself it's similar to Thomas, but it's not. So is Tommen the kid that Cersei was trying to poison during Blackwater, the only good episode of this show? I remember just yelling like, who's this fucking blonde kid? And then they sent her daughter away in a boat, which I only remember because that was mentioned in a recap. I'll fully admit, some of these I'm not paying attention, and some of them I remember, but if it hasn't been relevant for a couple episodes... So yeah, apparently Cersei and Jaime fucked like, I don't know, 700 babies into this world. I have no idea how many there actually are, genuinely. I could not tell you. Joffrey, Tobin Spirit Guide, and whoever that daughter was, and then if they have more, sure. Everyone's got the 3 or 7 babies on this show. So yeah, we got us a new king. Marjorie is still being creepy in his direction. Cersei's all like, what's your fucking deal? I learned a lot of names this episode. Tommen was one. Syrio Farrell. No longer serial sword fighter, so I'm so sorry, but we're gonna have to burn serial sword fighter. And now, in his place, Syrio Farrell. Guess who else's name I learned? Finally, someone very loudly and prominently, though I think it was in the recap, said Jorah. Dany's buddy, who still feels like he came out of nowhere, is named Jorah. I can stop calling him like weird swinger party pirate or whatever other names I've given him. Dany's fucking guy! Grizzled Crocodile Dundee. Dany's simp. A leather cowboy hat away from handing out fencing lesson flyers at a swingers convention. Jorah is the name of Dany's reply guy. So it's up here, locked in. I'm never gonna forget it. I'm calling it that Syrio Farrell is alive. When I say I'm calling it, I want him to be alive, but this seems to be like the kind of show that'll middle finger you. But Arya had a conversation with the Hound when she was doing her flippy doos that he's dead, he was outnumbered, and then the Hound had this weird comment about like who killed him. And here's the thing, the Hound was criticizing his sword fighting, but then when he asked who killed him, he responded to that with, oh, he's a shitty sword fighter. And I couldn't tell if the implication there was supposed to be like the fact that he beat him was impressive, or the fact that, oh, that guy sucks, so Syrio probably got out alive. I'm guessing that's what that was there for. Honestly, even though I want Syrio to be alive, I feel like that was kind of a cheap way to be like, wait for it, he might be out there somewhere. Frankly, I think a lot of the storytelling on this show is cheap. What are you gonna do about it? I'll get poisoned in season 6, don't worry. Tyrion and Jaime are in prison. Why the fuck was Jaime in prison? Is Jaime a suspect for killing the king? I think so. Oh, another name I learned. Titty Boy is named Robin. And Robin is apparently Littlefinger's nephew. Littlefinger is also fucking Titty Mama. Also, my fave, when things suddenly get really quiet. Suddenly, wolf! Ah, they did another one. It was great. I love that it was kind of like a horror movie in this one. Like, you know, when a character's just like, I finally did it. I finally got away. I better keep looking in this direction for like 4 minutes. Oh, like the guy from Doctor Who was like in a cabin or something. I thought this was the same cabin as the guy who has babies with all his daughters. Apparently it is not. It is some different cabin. A guy from Doctor Who is in it, looking like a shit. He eats a sword backwards. It looks stupid. I laughed so hard. I feel like whenever there's supposed to be like a big, you know, ooh, they got him good moment, it always makes me laugh. Like, I don't know, people's reactions to things are just like, oh, you know what? I'll talk about this now. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. Godfather, Goodfellas, opera, rock and roll. Where does Game of Thrones fit on the map? I think that's why I struggle with the tone of this show, because it is trying to be both opera and rock and roll. It is trying to be The Godfather and Goodfellas. And for the record, I think The Godfather is trashier than people give it credit for. I really struggle with the tone of this show. It seems to bounce between this, like, epic, grandiose, mythic thing and fuck poop tits. And for the record, I'm Team Goodfellas all the way. I wish this show could be more Goodfellas. And not necessarily in, like, crassness, but just in terms of, like, let's fucking rock. Like, I feel like the battles are exciting on this show. And that's the Goodfellas shit that I want. I want people just talking about fun shit and just battling, but there are so many long, drawn out dialogue scenes that are just so loaded down with the weight of their self-importance, where Goodfellas is just, you know, get your fucking shine box. I want all these fuckers to get their fucking shine box. Put Layla over any scene from Game of Thrones, instantly better. I have 60 seconds left. Random thing I want to talk about. The house that has the sigil of the guy upside down on a rack? Are we the baddies? Not to reference David Mitchell twice in this, because he also has an amazing bit about how The Godfather ruined gangster movies. But also, yeah, that Mitchell and Webb sketch, like, of the Nazis, like, we got skulls all over our shit. Are we the bad guys? Like, how can you live in the kingdom whose sigil is a guy being tortured upside down on a rack and not go, might be shit to live here? Oh, my glasses are on, so you're probably getting a weird glare that whole time. Oh, none of this is scripted. None of this is planned. And most importantly, none of this is fun. Season 4, Episode 6, The Laws of Gods and Men. Boop. All right. Classic Tyrion? I've never been on trial. Wow, Tyrion. What are you gonna do, buddy? This is an intense one. I liked this one. I bet you never would have guessed that, because it stays mainly in one place and doesn't jump around a whole bunch. I've figured out what I like about this show, and it's when it stays in one place and focuses on just a small set of characters, and I can go, oh, remember when TV did this? Remember when Sam just leaped in and spent 45 minutes there, and I could just figure out what was going on? What I want to say is my classic Tyrion trait is misjudging relationships. Getting vulnerable. I think everyone is deeply in love with me, and why wouldn't they be? Oh god, now I am Tyrion, damn it! Some stuff happened before the trial, and I'm trying to recall what it was. You know what's very strange about Theon and Ramsay Snow, who I thought was Ramsay Bolton, my bad. What's very interesting about the Theon and Ramsay storyline here is that I'm watching this on HBO, and you know what keeps popping up before the episodes? Ads for The Vow, which is about the Nexium cult, which I have been watching. In fact, I was very heartily enjoying it until suddenly $1,000 made me have to watch this instead. And it is quite interesting to watch those two things right next to each other, because in it they talk a lot about the processes of breaking somebody down and brainwashing them, and it seems like textbook to a T. And what's interesting to me is that I found myself not as offended by it, even though I had just watched a real-world example of it, very close to it. And I think this sort of gets a little closer to analyzing it. In some of the other scenes where someone is a pig or a monster, there's kind of a blurred line of like, well, that's how everybody was back then, so deal with it. Newsflash, this is not back then. It's a completely made-up fantasy world where all the choices are being made by people who live in this world. That's all art. Yada-da-da-da-da. But yeah, it was interesting to see that dynamic, because I think it was actually kind of handled well. The whole, like, torture and then pleasure and then taking it away, giving him a new name. I was fucking chilled when he was like, I need you to pretend to be someone else. Who? Theon Greyjoy, your actual name. Then that hit me in like some weird squickies in a few ways, like brainwashing and also like denying someone their name. You'll never believe this, but as a non-binary gender fluid person, yikes, fuck you, Ramsay. And I know in some earlier entries I've said that when they get into like darker topics, I sometimes go, I have to look away, I have to turn this off. But I can acknowledge that for some people, narratives like this actually help them process it. And I'll admit, that was one that I kind of was like, oh, I kind of feel like this one is being handled a little better. And I feel like I am sort of on the other side of like, oh, I understand this. I understand what they're doing. Like talking about how you break a person down and brainwash them. And I can just sit with it and be like, oh, this guy is pure evil. And I think that's, you know, the lines of good and evil are blurred on this show. But like, brainwashing, that's heinous. I'm fascinated by cults. That was the alarm for my role-playing game that I play every week. But I ain't playing it this week because I gotta watch Game of Thrones. I just genuinely was like, that's not the Game of Thrones theme, is it? I've brainwashed myself. What else happened in this episode? Yeah, the trial of Tyrion. I didn't know that you could just declare combat. And of course it's Tyrion, so I know he's cooking something up. Speaking of scheming, got a little Varys and Prince Pleasure, Prince Abubu, what was his name? Audubon. Genuinely, friends, I'm not like just looking for excuses to riff. I can't keep things in my head, and I have to get whatever word is close. You've seen me when I screw up Alana. I really liked Prince Oberon, fucker of all things, talking to Varys, fucker of no things. And then for a moment I was like, oh yay, Varys is ace representation. But I feel like whenever this show has queer representation, it has to like nestle it in sort of a, well, we didn't have that in the old days, which I've always kind of fucking hated. I want to see more old shows that are like, hey, the sexualities that we, are aware of and have terms for today, we may not have had the terms back then, but it would be refreshing to see people that did identify that way. They just didn't have the terminology or the tools, and they carved their own path. I feel like that's a very healing thing for queers to see, especially in things set in the past, or, get this, set in fantasy worlds where you can do literally anything. But for some reason, when something on Game of Thrones is terrible, it's history, No, it's not! It's all made up! Like, Jesus Christ, whenever something's crappy on Star Trek, I don't go, well, current science looks like we'll end up there someday. Fucking what? It's fantasy! Do whatever you want! It's made up! I think it's interesting that, like, Varys is presented as asexual, obviously, because of the whole eunuch thing, but I thought there was a line where they said, like, before. Like, I thought Varys said, like, oh, I wasn't interested in boys or girls. Side note, I'm kind of hating that the ace character is automatically assumed to be gay. They keep bringing that up a lot. And also, I don't know if I should be using the word ace for someone who's a eunuch. Doesn't have equipment for those things. Not that that's the only equipment you use for sex. I mean, if you're doing it right. Oh, the Bravos people who are super obsessed with, like, stats and data and figures, they would love Game of Thrones. They could make charts all damn day. I think that's an audience insert. Like, oh, that's my kingdom. I feel like I should get extra time for that Lord of the Rings interruption, but what the hell? I didn't have much more to say. Bravos are nerds! I have to reframe myself. I'm sitting on a pillow because I've been watching Game of Thrones for 4 days! Season 4, Episode 7, it's the Mockingbird, let's rock. Oh, nope, that's my alarm. Sorry, let's rock. One of my favorite tropes of the series so far got a little modified today. Suddenly, Guy! Did not see this one coming. They didn't do it the way they normally do, suddenly Wolf. About exactly when I had time to realize something's about to happen. They found that guy dying, and then the Hound gave him a little slice, and then he stood up, and suddenly, Guy! So Arya is kind of an interesting case because I feel like a lot of my friends like really look up to her as a strong female character, and it feels like her arc is that she can be just as violent and terrible as any man. And, I'm half joking. Like, I think she is an interesting character. She certainly lives in a world where it's the only way to survive. I think stealing yourself for justice is good. Dany, also amazing on the justice front. Is this the episode where she slept with that guy, by the way? I think it was. Yeah. She gotta look at that dick. I did a film festival once. They pulled different, like, traits out of a hat. One of them was a strong female character. Kicked off a discussion about, like, what are some strong female characters? And every single one that people named had killed someone. The people that ran the festival immediately mentioned, like, there are other ways to be a strong female character other than you've killed someone. I always keep that in mind, and it's been interesting to just see Arya, like, I'm making a list of people to kill. She's a really interesting character. In the back of my head, I can just hear somebody at the typewriter going, she's the strongest character because she's about to kill 100 people. They sure do let a lot of people talk to Tyrion in prison. Maybe I zonked out when they were saying, like, why they were letting people in there. He's known for scheming. It's what he does. I also was surprised that we didn't see any combat. Like, the last episode, he was very much like, I choose trial by combat. So I was expecting to see it in this episode. Nope. I gotta keep waiting, I guess. I liked the pie guy. That was just such a, like, silly scene. It felt like it was out of a sitcom or something. Hello, let me tell you all about how to make the perfect steak and kidney pie. Whenever a food is mentioned in a movie or show, I need to have it immediately. I don't know what it is. Just like, I think there's something about, like, just seeing it and then having it described. That's the combination. Brienne, like, digging into the pie, looking like she's liking it, and then a guy coming over and being like, the gravy, the crust, the meat is the most important part. And I just was like, fuck you, show. I need some steak and kidney pie now. Oh yeah, the prince wanted to swap sexy stories. Classic Oberon. And Tyrion said, I've got every kind of filth down here except the kind that I like. Not only is that a classic Tyrion, That's a classic pandemic mood. There's a reason I have not moved the iPad a single inch in either direction. I've got every kind of filth I need here, except the kind I like. Thank God for video chat. Anyway, remember kissing? Can we just stop and like assess the pandemic? Probably the only thing I like less than the show. So yeah, what else? Did anything else happen? Oh! Of course, stuff happened in this episode. Sansa made her little ice Winterfell, and then Robin the Titty Boy came over and was just like, tell me all about it. And then he starts talking about the moon door, which you can throw people out of, and it's so much fun. I throw people in there all damn day. It's a hoot wee, says Robin the Titty Boy. And then Sansa smacks him for knocking over the thing, and I immediately yelled out loud, "That's how you get moon doored!" Involuntarily, I was like, Sansa, no! Ray, when someone tells you they have a moon door, you don't hit them! Sometimes I don't like the way the show telegraphs things that are going to happen. Like, I want the show to be more confident in its own surprises. And in fairness, I have this problem with a lot of movies. There's little subtle hints, like the way the timing of the movie is suddenly off, just normal cuts, normal edits, and then suddenly there's a long gap of nothing in the movie. Actually, Friday the 13th does this really effectively. There's one scene where somebody just slowly makes a pot of coffee for 2 minutes, and then nothing happens. Your mileage may vary on whether that's awesome, but I think that's fucking awesome, and more horror movies need to do that. Like, you're just sitting there like, oh, it's too quiet and this shot's holding too long! Oh, I hope the coffee came out okay. Yum. That's the hot take for Friday the 13th content that I'm sure you're all here for. Wait a minute! It's spooky season! I could be watching horror movies, but instead I'm watching Game of Thrones, which is a horror all its own. Season 4, Episode 8, The Mountain and the Viper. I will humbly concede there's another good episode of Game of Thrones. I liked this one. I liked most of the stories going on. I'll be honest, the beginning, kind of dusty. Wasn't really feeling it. I was starting to do some of this. But then brought it back because Tyrion's the best character. Canister. I almost called him the best canister, because he's a Lannister, and he's quite a character. Double classic Tyrion in this one. That's right, double classic Tyrion. 2 Tyrion traits that I feel like I share this episode. Number 1, I love when Tyrion is worrying about being killed for committing regicide, and then, like, he just starts going off about, like, there's so many words for killing: matricide, patricide, fratricide. Classic Tyrion. Whenever I'm stressed, my mind just wanders, and like, instead of focusing on the thing I'm supposed to be focusing on, I'm always just, fascinated by word origins and things like that. Classic Tyrion number 2, I usually zone out when someone starts to give a speech, but when Tyrion started talking about smashing beetles, I was all ears. He's just an engaging presence. When Tyrion talks, it's actually interesting. Classic Tyrion! Sorry, I'm up my own ass. Speaking of being up asses, let's talk about Prince Pleasure, Prince Oberon. What a way to go. Spoilers, obviously. We'll come back to the fight, but we do have to talk about the fight. The Hound and Arya went to go see Titty Mommy just to find out she was dead. I thought that was great, because one thing that I do really like about setting things in a medieval fake world is the fact that you have to go a long way to do things. I don't want to spoil a movie that came out very recently, recent-ish, but like, almost the entire movie is centered around the fact that, hey, before cars existed, you could end up going a long fucking way for nothing. And I just really love that they're like traipsing their way there just to find out she's already dead, and like, I don't know, I just thought that was funny. And the Hound said something great while they were walking. The Hound said something kind of meta that I think was there for people like me who don't really dig the show. Blood, honor, all that horse shit. That's all you lords and ladies talk about. Agreed. Classic Hound. I need to put a lot of time on that, moving the phone over here. I don't know. This whole time I've been putting my phone extremely far away, and then I don't know how much time I have left to talk. Not classic Tyrion. The fight was really cool. I'll say this. I've mentioned in past installments that I think they telegraph stuff a lot. And I just... Pascal was flipping around too much. And I feel like this is a show for people who like brutal kills. And so from the very moment he started flipping around, I was like, oh no, he's dead. Like, he's fucking dead. And then the surprise of Tyrion might not actually make it out of this one was kind of lost on me. Because let's face it, they queer-coded him, which makes sense because he's queer. And I was like, oh no, the queer-coded one always loses. I like this one because it actually was varied and nuanced enough. So they show him, like, flipping around, fighting not unlike Syrio Farrell. Remembered his name, and he was winning. He was seriously fucking bringing it. I'm not the first person to observe this, but serious Inigo Montoya vibes, and I remember thinking, like, okay, here we go. The show is subverting expectation. We're gonna have the light balletic one prove to actually take down the mountain, which is really, you know, an interesting twist. And then the second he started being like, all right, fucker, now confess, I was like, oh no. Oh no. I didn't know how he was gonna go, but I knew he was gonna go. And they started telegraphing, like, he kept walking near him, and I'm like, oh no, oh no. I thought he was just gonna grab his ankle and slam him down so hard that was gonna be it. Like, I thought, like, the fact that the mountain is so strong, he literally was just gonna, like, hulk him right into the ground, like, just from laying down. Just, like, rip smack. There was a lot of, like, hinting that he was a goner, but I gotta say, like, when people talk about how twisty the show can be, that one was twisty enough that I was like, oh, he's definitely gonna lose. Oh, he's gonna win. Oh no, he's gonna lose, but how's he gonna lose? Oh, crunch! I had a feeling they wouldn't let Tyrion go, because frankly, it's more fun to watch Tyrion get away with things by being clever, and this wasn't clever. This was just hire someone else to fight for you, and it wasn't as fun. So now I must weep for Prince Oberon. I hope that his widow can find solace in Tyrion's arms. So yeah, I guess I'll have to find a new triad. You know, because it makes sense to watch a show and say, these two people I will date. That makes sense. That's normal. Who do you think it's gonna be? Tell me in the comments. Season 4, Episode 9, The Watchers on the Wall. Begin! There was a battle at the wall. A bunch of stuff happened. I'm done. This one had a lot of great moments, but it didn't have that Blackwater daisy chain of like, oh fuck, well what does that mean? Oh fuck, well what does that mean? Instead it was a lot of like battle moments that were really cool and self-contained, but there wasn't like, oh crap, that went wrong, so now this leads to this. I made 2 predictions in this episode, and one I was wrong about, and one I was infuriatingly right about. The one I was wrong about was when Sam and Gilly were smooching. Yeah, Sam did some smooching. She says, promise me you won't die. And he says, I promise you I won't die. And I literally said out loud, so Sam's dead, because nothing can be happy ever. The second prediction I made was 1 second before it actually happened, but count it, motherfucker. So when Ygritte got the arrow to the back, I went, oh, you know nothing, Jon Snow. Sarcastically, because it would be really stupid and cheesy to have that be her last words. And then those were her fucking last words. I really feel like that line only worked the first time it was said, and I hate when a show forces a tagline. And so yeah, I genuinely very sarcastically out loud was like, oh man, wouldn't it be stupid if those were her last... Okay, so there's a bunch of guys climbing up the wall, and then all of a sudden they pull this thing and a blade goes shing shing and wipes them all off. And like at first I was like, okay, that was neat, but then I was like, how did they plan for that? Like, I want to know the logistics. If your show has time to spend 49 episodes on, we forged an alliance with the North, but to the West we'll have to make horses out of meat or whatever the fuck. How come you didn't spend any time on the fucking windshield wiper that goes and gets rid of everybody trying to climb the wall? How do you know they're all going to be in the right spot for it to hit? It actually seemed kind of like the wildfire boat. It seemed like, well, we can only use it once. Giants all day. I'll watch giants do anything. Cool shit. Good job, giants. They were fun. I like their design. I like watching them just lumber around. I'm a simple lady with simple tastes, and what I want is just like cool looking shit. And swords are boring. I know what a sword looks like. I know what it sounds like when two of them go ting. What I want is a giant with a fucking spear, foofing people. There's woolly mammoths or mastodons. Fun fact, mastodon means nipple tooth. I really liked how they framed Ygritte and Jon Snow seeing each other again for the first time. I think it really had a good impact of like she's been vowing to kill him and then they see each other and they're like, oh my gosh, and then like, oh no, and then just the look on the face of the guy who shot her, because he has no idea like what their connection is, so he's just like, got your back, bro. And John's like, oh. Anyway, Watchers, Walls, good stuff. I can't really I don't know how to fill the rest of my time. It was just kind of a battle episode, you know? What can you do? No regrets! Season 4, episode 10, and it's almost 4:30. Let's just get this thing rolling. I'm starting to think it might be a bad idea to watch an entire season of television in a day for 4 days. When Cersei told her dad that it's true that she was sleeping with her brother, and he said, no, that's not true, she should have said, I incest. Khaleesi's dragons are at that certain age, huh? She's gotta lock them up. Wah. Suddenly, zombies! Why do the zombies look so bad? I'm sure there's an article somewhere that says it's intentionally a reference to Jason and the Argonauts. I don't care. They look bad. They look stupid and bad, and I don't like them. The Hound and Brienne fought, and that was something. It was very poorly edited, like super poorly edited. I couldn't follow what was going on. Somebody's ear got ate. Boy, she sure taught the Hound to roll over, huh? Tyrion escaped from the room where they let anyone go in and open the door and let him out. What a thrilling runaway. I'm starting to think this show is starting to actually suck, and not just suck in the ways that I don't like to watch. Seriously though, why can anyone just go in Tyrion's cell at any time and take him out? That's stupid. He'd kill his dad on the shitter. Charles Dance. More like get him some Charles Pants. Okay, look. I'm supposed to talk for 10 minutes about this episode, but I just covered it all. So we're going to do the part where I try to chart out everything that's happened in the season, and I'm just going to do it now. But because I don't care, and because everybody keeps dying, I'm just going to give you names of people that have died and work outward from there, and we'll figure that out. Ned Stark, more like dead Stark. Cat Stark, also dead. How many more Starks? Robb Stark. Robb Stark is dead. You don't really need to see this. Lady Footsaw, she's dead. Dogliachi, who's that, you ask? That's the court jester whose name I never learn. Dave something. Oh, they pushed Titty Mom down the moon door. I forget her real name. She was Littlefinger's wife. There's a garbage truck because it's 4:30 in the morning. Who else died? Did the Hound die? Probably. He was left to die? I'm gonna say he died. Oh, Ygritte. Ygritte, honey. Oh, now she truly knows nothing, because she ain't got a functioning brain. So many people die on this show. Oh, Joffrey. Joffrey's dead. Tywin is dead. Jaime's hand is dead. I don't know if I put the trash out. Oh, there's some dead people. That's not the half of it. There's also Renly. Yeah, I learned his name. I used to call him Smooth Nips. Nipples of Smoothness. I think Loras is still alive. Who else died? Back to season 1. King Flintstone, King Robb Baratheon, the guy from Doctor Who, the fucking everybody dies on this show. Zoro Duck Sauce, and the Mani-Pedi Darius. I don't know how it's spelled. None of the names are spelled consistently in my world. But that's just some of the lucky people who don't have to watch this show because they're dead. Much more people have died, right? Who else died? Sam didn't die. Or did Sam die? Honestly, I don't remember. Oh! Prince Oberon Got his head chunked. Jangly robe fucker. Who else died? Who are some big deaths? Lannisters. Starks. Tony Stark died. That's right. Who else? Who was in season 2? Season 2 had the big LimeWire wildfire. But I don't know if anybody important there died. Anyway, these are some people that have died over the course of 4 seasons. Did I put Tywin on there? Oh my god. He got shot on the shitter. He got shit shot, and I don't have a fucking... Did I put him on there? I keep calling him Charles Dance, because I've seen him on a panel show once, and he was very entertaining. No, I got Tywin. Predictions for next season. I will continue to not like it. Oh my god, I should be celebrating. It's the halfway point. I did it. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks for paying me to be this tired. My website is bearclawbillie.com. If I figured out how to start a Patreon, it's right here. Or maybe it's just a smoke detector. And if you liked the music, I made that. Special thanks to all these people in the credits for paying me to be this tired doing something I don't enjoy. Y'all are the real ones. Thank you for giving me money to keep living in the place that I live, because the government couldn't help me in that regard. And as they say on Game of Thrones, when the night covers the faces of men, their asses go in the ground, baby. Bye, everybody. Bye. See you, bye.